her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine evening edition of the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. Breathe and exhale. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Hope you guys are doing great. But I have to interrupt these important messages to bring you the following news. It's time for bed. All right, everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories. I am Brent Thomas, your host, and thank you. Hello, Cade. I see you. Cade Shipley says hello. Good to see you. Good to see everybody that's coming in. Great to see you all, and thank you so much for being here for the show. That's absolutely fantastic. And yes, Julie, you are correct. The lines are open. Of course, our fantastic mods are here. Miss Lady Death and Mrs. Blacktree are both here, and welcome, guys. I don't know if Diana's in here tonight. She's our other amazing mod, but they will keep the roof on the place, I promise. I have the greatest mods in the business. There's no question about it. So hope you guys are having a great night. Your head's spinning. I hope your head's okay, Haxer. Just looking at the chat, everybody's is coming near. Yeah. Aloha, Lena. It's so great to see you all, and it's fun. It's so amazing to do these shows and to see this family group just come in the door. It's like, wow. I don't know. It feels so warm and fuzzy to me. So I'm a bit, Oh, there's Duke. Duke came in. Good to see you, brother. And Suzanne and Zero Mind Gemini is here. Matt Learned, Lena Haxer. Yeah, the names are key. Aussie, Tiger Rock Fam is in here. Cade Shipley. Who have I not mentioned? Renee is in here. Good to see you, Renee. Randall Electric. Good to see you. Yeah, a bunch of names up in here already, and more are coming in all the time. So, and oftentimes people come just to watch the show. They don't always chat. So, hello to all of you who aren't chatting, and thank you so much for being here and being a part of what we're doing. Please like the stream if you would, please. It definitely helps out, and some people don't, maybe understand the significance of those likes, but it actually helps YouTube to promote the videos. So per viewers, they do like a percentage split, how many likes per views, and if it reaches a certain threshold, they'll promote it more. Because, in the suggested videos, like when you're browsing YouTube and you get these suggested videos along the side. So that's why we always like to see the likes, because they actually do help to promote the Paranormal Portal, so that maybe other people might come, become acquainted with it. So just food for thought. And by all means, if you don't like it, don't like it. I certainly wouldn't want you to be dishonest about it. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, hit the don't like. If you're indifferent, don't do anything. So we're going to get into some stories here as usual. And tomorrow night we will be doing the Wednesday Mayhem edition with Don here, and that'll be a great time. It's usually a lot of fun, and just solidified a guest for Friday night's show, which will be Mr. Jerry Klein, an incredible Bigfoot researcher, is going to be on the show. Really looking forward to that. If you want to become acquainted with Jerry, if you're not already, go check out World Bigfoot Radios with Duke's show. And he's had Jerry on a few times, and it's just amazing. And of course, Jerry has his own channel on YouTube as well. But he really works hard. He really gets out there, and he's real passionate about the subject. So I'm really looking forward to having Jerry on. And he's just a neat guy. I talked to him on the phone for a bit today, and I just really like him. You can tell he's like a salt of the earth kind of guy. I mean, he's just a really neat guy. So I'm just really looking forward to having Jerry on the show, and that'll be Friday night, ladies and gentlemen, here on our Paranormal Portal Friday edition, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And you can check it out here on YouTube, or you can listen to it live. If you want audio only, you can certainly go to tfrlive.com, or you can check out iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live on the Truth Frequency Radio channel on those platforms respectively. So lots of different ways to see what the hell's going on here in the portal. So let's get to some stories, unless somebody's got anything more pressing. Looking through the chat one more time. Christy Monster Truck Gal, good to see you. Anybody new? Gemini, how you doing, Gemini? I don't know if I said hello to you yet or not, but if I didn't, hello. If I did, hello again. So great to see you all. All right, so let's get on to these stories and see if I can keep you all entertained for a little while. All right, so the first story tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from California. A lot of them come from California. It's pretty common. Oh, I see this one has an image as well. All right, so I'll read the story and then I'll pull up the image and you guys can see that in just a second. All right, so since I was 4 days old, I've lived with my paternal grandmother and her husband. This man, he became my best friend. We just had a bond that was untouched. This man, Roger, had a daily routine, up at 4 a.m. in the shower and out the door by 6 for his trip to the coffee shop and the grocery store and the newspaper stand. Every single morning before he left, he would wake me up and tell me to take out Mimi, our silky terrier, and feed her when you wake up. Roger, in the year 1998, met his demise, of course. It was only known to his wife and myself of his sickness, which was colon cancer, and the rest of us were in horror to hear that he passed. August 5th, 1998. It was August 6th, 1998, that I had awoken to the sound of a shower. I was sleeping on the couch in the living room, and I walked down the hall to the bathroom, and of course, to my dismay, there wasn't a shower running, nor was the bathtub even wet. I did check. After this, I went to the kitchen for a bottle of water, and I glanced at the microwave and saw that it was about 4:07 a.m. I don't know the exact time, but I remember it was between 4 and 4:30 a.m., and I don't think nothing of it, so I go back to sleep, and shortly after, I'm awoken by someone shaking me, and I turn around, and about 2 inches away from my face was Roger. I just stared in amazement. This man died in a hospital bed not more than 6 or 7 hours ago. Take Mimi out when you wake up and feed her. I'll bring you some goodies back. His voice was so real. He was so real. I thought it had to be a dream. He walked towards the door, and as I watched, I heard the door open and shut, but I didn't see it. I quickly ran to the window and heard his 1970 Cadillac start up, and I saw the fog from him warming it up on the chilly morning as I heard it back up, but not seeing it. He just vanished. He had always told me he was my guardian angel. Now I guess he really is. About a week after he died, in my first encounter with him, subsequent to his death, I saw him again, only this time it wasn't towards me. I had ran in my Nana's room to tell her something, and I saw she was sleeping on the bed, and I saw him laying next to her, holding her hand, saying, "Jean, it's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right." The same as she was saying to him the night that he died. After that, I just ran in our garage and remained there for the rest of the day. He looked as though he was really laying right there, and I don't know if it was real or if I was just hallucinating. I'd gotten into an argument prior to my sighting with my cousins, so I was a little angry. And that's actually the end of the story. But very cool. I guess the images don't really show anything ghostly, so I'm not gonna show those. They're just pictures of all of them together. So not really anything we need to see because it's not our family. But yeah, beautiful story. That's interesting that she experienced seeing him and hearing him opening and seeing and opening, hearing him opening and shutting the door, but noticing the door didn't really open and shut, and hearing the car, but noticing that there was no car. And just, it's almost like a parallel reality, or that she was seeing through the veil a little bit there or something. I don't know. That's really cool though. It's hard to say, I guess. I don't know. There's so many questions on this stuff, and I really would love to understand it. I really would, and I guess that's still my passion and always will be my passion for all of this, is to understand it. But maybe that's just not possible. I don't know. But still, incredible stories and incredible experiences that people have, and I think it's exciting. I really do. All right, the next one is coming out of Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on down to Texas and see what's going on. All right, it was about 10, or I was about 10 rather, and I used to live in a small town called, I don't know how the hell to say this. It looks like Uvalde, so like Uvalde or Uvalde or Uvalde. It's a good place to raise kids. It says rise kids, but I think they meant raise. And I guess nothing really major happens there. I was with my friend Rigo on the front porch shooting water guns at the dark. It says at the dark. And we were playing the army stuff, die you evil monster kind of thing. And well, we must have struck a nerve. I went inside to refill my water gun, and Rigo came about 10 seconds after. So I ran out as fast as I could so I could hide and wet him. And I hid behind the fence that divided our houses, with a huge pecan tree hiding the moonlight. And as I saw him come outside, he turned away real fast, as if someone called him, and ran inside. I looked at him through the glass door that we had, and as I was walking up the sidewalk, and he started to come back outside, so I took off to hide. And as he was standing there, I began to laugh because I knew that if he didn't find me, he would go home and have to walk right past me, and I would wet him. Wet him. I love that saying. That's just really unique. Just then I heard my name in the most awful way you could hear. It sounded like some kind of demon talking to me. I took off to the porch where Rigo was standing, and he asked me if I heard something. I said my name. Just like two chickens, we ran inside and told my sister, and she looked outside as if there was someone there, so she could believe us. And I closed the door, and we talked about what happened, wondering if it was the big D calling us. And as I was growing up, we were always told if you weren't inside by a certain time, that he would come get you. And I tell you what, being Hispanic and having your grandmothers and aunts and uncles tell you stories about what happened to them, we have no choice but to believe. In the end, we never spoke about it for fear that it might happen again. Could it have been it? You tell me. I hope you enjoy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, oftentimes people like to, equate these kind of things with one being. Like there's this one omniscient negative being. And of course it's referred to as the devil or whatever, but I don't think, let's say there is this one extraordinarily powerful negative being. He's probably not going to be really interested in one person. He's probably not going to narrow his focus to one being in order to grab just one being. I'm sure if there is such a thing as this, and I'm not saying there is, and I guess personally I don't know what to think about that. If there is one collective being, like there's one collective being for good and light, is there one collective being for negative and dark? Maybe, but I don't know that it would waste much time with one person. So when you hear these stories of people asking names. What is your name? And you hear like, an EVP of Satan. It's like, yeah, I don't think Satan's probably hanging out in a basement somewhere, an empty boiler room waiting for somebody to wander in. If it is this really powerful negative thing, I'm sure it's working on a global scale about something. It's not hanging out in an old toilet somewhere in some, closed hospital. But it could, most likely is just some spirit trying to get a rise out of people, maybe a very negative spirit trying to shock people or whatever. And I think that that's more than likely what it is. So I don't think what these kids experienced was the big D, the devil. But I think it could be a negative entity that's just creeping them out or whatever. But you never know. Hard to know. Again, spirits, in many cases, if they were human, they retain the characteristics of their human life. So there are practical jokers, and I can imagine there are practical joker spirits too. All right, let's continue on. All right, let's see, 21. Not a huge crowd tonight, but that's okay. We don't need a big full house all the time. It's nice. Thanks, Duke. Yeah, Duke agrees with me. That's cool. That's nice. I mean, I throw these ideas out there, and it's nice if they make sense. If they don't, well, discard them with the rest. I got to get a drink. Hold on, guys. Lady, you're getting very creative. Has the portal got you too frightened to call in? Email your encounters at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I love it. That's creative. Love it. Oh, all right. So let's see what's going on in North Carolina, because that's the state that's coming up next, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what's going on. Me and my friend Adam were at his house one day in a city called Hickory. It was his mother and father's house, and they lived there for a while, and everything really seemed absolutely fine. It was a nice little house, and on this day, it was around lunch, and we were just sitting there chatting to each other, and we talked for a while, and then we heard a knock on the door. Adam got up and answered it, and it was his girlfriend, and by this time, it's now about 4 p.m., and we decided to go to his bedroom to play his PlayStation 2, so we all went in there, and it was a little room, so I was on the bed, and he was sitting on the floor, and she was sitting on a fold-down chair. Now, let me remind you that there are only 3 people in this house, 1 cat, 1 dog. Adam has a brother that has cerebral palsy, and his bedroom is right next door down the hall, and we were sitting there playing this air combat fighting game, and we were all taking turns playing the game when his bedroom door came open. It was his cat, named Lily, and she hopped on the bed, and I petted her for a few seconds, then she got down and left the room. We continued to play our game, and then all of a sudden we hear a faint noise that was louder than our game, and I turned to Adam and said, "Did you hear that?" And Adam replied, I think I heard something. His girlfriend was sitting there in disbelief, and she said, "I heard it." I turned the game off, and everything got quiet, and we sat there for a few moments, and then out of nowhere, we heard this beautiful music coming from the piano. We all looked at each other, and I said, "Adam, is your brother home?" And he said, "He don't get home until after 6. I looked down, and he had a bat sitting beside his bedroom door, and I grabbed it and clenched onto it, and he grabbed a sword off his wall, and we proceeded out of his bedroom, and we looked down the hall, and it was coming from his brother's bedroom, and we looked at each other and then looked down the hall. The door was slightly cracked, and we got to the door, and the music stopped. It was pitch black in his brother's room, and Adam says, "Nathan, are you in there?" Nobody replied. Adam got a concerned look on his face, and he raised his foot and kicked the door open quickly, flipped on the light, and there was nobody there. Now his cat was sitting on the little stool at the keyboard player. She looked up at us and meowed. Now we were hearing something like Mozart or something, and I looked, the thing was turned off, and it was unplugged. So until this day, we still don't know what was going on. It was really freaky. Maybe the cat was jamming. That is cool. I don't know. Again, I don't think spirits have a whole lot of trouble manipulating electronic objects. There are stories upon stories upon stories upon stories of them manipulating lights, radios, fixtures, appliances, etc., etc. Even heard a few computer ones through the ages and TVs. So maybe by virtue of them being a form of energy, that's manipulating an energetic object isn't that much of a stretch. I don't know. Very wild. The next one is coming out of Colorado. I'm just looking up and there are no callers. That's okay. But the call board is open, ladies and gentlemen. As always on the Paranormal Portal, if you want to call in, it's 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So if you want to call in and be a part of the portal, you got something to share, some thoughts, some ideas, please feel free. The lines are open. So Colorado's next, ladies and gentlemen. And what's going on in Colorado? Once my mom and her boyfriend split, we went to move in with my grandparents in Redlands, California. I lived there a few years before and had noticed weird things going on in the house. And of course, nobody believed me, so I just basically kept to myself. There'd be times when we'd be alone watching TV and I would hear footsteps upstairs in my grandparents' room just walking back and forth. And after a while, it was so annoying, so I called out, "Who's there?" And of course, the footsteps would stop. I just brushed it off. Another time I was in the kitchen making something to eat when I saw someone run into the office. Thinking it was my grandma, I called out for her, but when I got no response, I decided to check it out, and nobody was there. At night, I'll usually hear someone walking up and down the stairs. The footsteps won't stop unless you say something out loud. Another time when I was younger, I was in one of the rooms playing Nintendo, and from the corner of my eye, I saw a lady in a white dress on the balcony just staring at me. After I saw that, I ran like a fat kid running to the buffet line. Oh my God. That's really nice. I ran like a fat kid to the buffet line. I told my mom, but she just ignored me and said it was just my imagination. So I shrugged my shoulders and resumed playing my game. Only after a few minutes, I saw her again. After that, I never slept in that room again. One of my scariest experiences was about 3 years ago. I came home late around 2 a.m. from hanging out with some friends, and I walked up the stairs and went into my room, and my dog Madison was waiting for me, and I played with him for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I heard the sliding door open from the room next door, and then some footsteps, and my dog then started to bark at the wall leading to the other room, and I figured it was my grandma closing the balcony door, so I went to say hi to her, but once I opened the door, the room was pitch black, and the sliding door was shut and locked. I ran back to my room and turned on the radio, TV, and slept with the lights on, and the next morning, I had asked my grandma if she was in the room next to mine, and she told me she hadn't been in that room all day. I was pretty freaked out after that. I now live in another city, but I still work in the Redlands, so when I'm too tired to drive home, I'll just sleep at my grandparents' house. And a few weeks ago, I went there and slept on the couch, and I woke up about 4 times because I kept hearing footsteps when it was just me in the house. That's pretty much it. Sorry if my story was as long as a novel. No, it wasn't too long. Don't apologize. We love it. I don't know. You know, the whole footsteps things, a lot of those could just be residual. But he did say that you've got to yell at it. Every time they yelled, "Who's there?" then it would stop. Well, that does seem to denote intelligence then. But, I have to wonder again, what would that existence be like? You're trapped in a house. You're a spirit and you're just stuck in a house. And all you can do is just pace around and watch what people are doing. That would be kind of a fresh kind of hell, I would think. I don't know. I don't know why people would be in that situation. I hope the afterlife is a whole lot more interesting than that. All right, so here comes another one, and this one's coming from Nebraska, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on in Nebraska? Oh, God, I hate when they do that. Okay, I got to get through the fluffy stuff. No. Okay. So apparently this person wrote another story and then promised they would keep everybody updated regarding the new office. It says, for a couple of days, things were going okay, and I was still hearing the whispered conversations as I opened the door. I was still being tapped on the shoulder, but I chose not to respond any longer to these kind of happenings, and there is no way anyone in the office will let there be an investigation, even if promised the utmost anonymity. It is not going to happen. I've not been able to perform the smudge ceremony yet, as I have not found the office alone enough for me to complete it. Yesterday evening was one for the record books of frightening things in my life, and I was panicking I was packing up my briefcase to leave for the evening. I'm a workaholic, and I was placing the documents I needed to work on, along with a few books for reference, when I heard a whispered male voice in my right ear, away from the door. The whisper said, "I want to come with you." I stopped loading my briefcase, hand goose flesh on my arms, and looked around. Nothing. I emphatically said no. No one from my place of business ever joins me at home. It is a rule of mine. I completed the task of loading up my briefcase with needed items. I then remembered I had brought a salad for lunch and went to the kitchen to retrieve my containers. And as I've mentioned in my previous stories, walking away from my office without securely locking my door is grounds for termination. So I pulled the door closed and tried the handle, locked up tight. I went to the kitchen, grabbed my bowl and utensils, and went back to my office. I turned the key in the lock and noticed immediately that the lights had been turned off. Okay, maybe I could have flipped the switch without thinking about it, but I know if did not pull the chain on the desk lamp. I turned on the lights and went to my briefcase to place my lunchware in the case to take home, and all of the data, paperwork, and books I had just packed in there no more than 3 minutes prior were stacked up into 3 neat little piles on the floor. 2 piles on the left side, 1 pile was on the right side. I went to the briefcase and looked down. Not only was it securely zipped, it was also latched with the key lock. I do not use the key system unless traveling because of the hassle. I went to my purse and got the key, opening the briefcase. As I opened it and unzipped it, there was a hug. I think it's a huge whoosh sound, almost like letting the air out of a giant balloon. I replaced all the items in the briefcase and closed it back up, this time choosing to lock it. As I left, and I was pulling the door closed after shutting off the lights, and I hear a very clearly, "Damn, we got to get out of here." This was spoken so loud, the CFO from around the corner came up to me and said, "Who was that and what is going on?" I tried to explain some of the occurrences, and he just kept shaking his head no and said he had to leave. Today, at least 10 times, I hear whispered conversations as before, and they are punctuated by a deeper male whisper saying, "Damn, we have to get out of here." I've tried telling them to cross over. As a matter of fact, I tried that many times today. The response I got before was nothing. Today I am getting shh. What a mess. The drama continues, and it's making it harder to concentrate. I worked for about an hour and a half in the bard room. I don't know what a bard room is. I think it's a boardroom. Okay. A boardroom just so I could get some things done. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know what you do for a place of business that won't allow you to get some help in there. You might want to do some job hunting because obviously those things are trying to get out of there. I'm not sure why they're stuck there, but that's weird. I don't know. Maybe there is a sort of purgatory kind of deal. Maybe they really did something wrong in their life and they're just kind of chained to that space. I don't know. Questions, always questions. All right, humans. Hey, Jim, how you doing, brother? Good to see you made it in. Always a pleasure. Oh, Estelle. Estelle Eventide. Nice to see you. Thanks for finding our channel. Very cool. All right, so let's get to California as the next state, ladies and gentlemen, that we are perusing in our journey tonight. It's kind of a long one. I don't know. This one might take a few minutes. There was never a time that I didn't sense what I assume are ghostly beings. I believe everywhere is haunted with some being or energy, but the house at 727 Verbena Way, Reno, Nevada, the house of my youth, was one of those places that could physically sensitize even the most insensitive. Sensitize even the most insensitive. Well, they should have said Nevada then on the title. I guess we're going to Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. But there is a male presence felt by my brother, my sister, and I. And he was in the kitchen, and we felt a sense of doom every time we ascended the stairs to the second story. My sister and I were left home alone, and there one night, and we were quite young. We were sitting at the table eating our TV dinners when a bowl and a spatula were deliberately picked up from the counter and glided across the room to the table. We were frozen with fear and awe. Eventually, my family moved because of work, and I was so happy. It was to go to Sacramento, and I finally felt life was going to get better. The first time we walked into our new house in Sacramento on Kokanee Way, hey, there's a beer up here called Kokanee, Kokanee. And I was personally overwhelmed. It was new and beautiful. My parents felt like they had done well in their purchase, buying it as a foreclosure, and they had paid less. However, they had kept one secret from us kids, that when they had initially bought the house, all normal and good, until they went into the master bedroom and entered a bathroom, blood was saturating the walls. Even the ceiling was streaked with red blood. And in the shower was the carcass of a chicken. Oh, God. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Somebody was not happy about their foreclosure. It appeared to be the ritual killing. Likely they killed the chicken to seal a curse upon the house and its next tenants. Now that's crappy. I mean, curse a bank if you got to, but don't curse it for the poor fools that move in after you. That's horrible. A few years later, when I got told about this and then confirmed it with my mother, it seemed to echo my sense of that house. Rather than alarm me, the house was active. One small example is the wall that refused to have pictures put on it. I tried everything from tacky to tape to tacks, and that is what held everything else up in my room. On that wall, however, nothing would stay. The pictures and holders would be on the floor before I could turn around. This pissed me off, so I decided to use a nail. Tapping the wall, I located the stud and then proceeded to hammer into the nail, and then I hung up the picture. I walked away and then turned my head back to see the most astonishing thing. The picture pulled laterally from the wall, and for a moment I was worried it would fly across the room to decapitate me like the dead chicken. Thankfully, it seemed to descend deliberately, not fall, to the ground. My heart was racing, but I had to see if the nail was still there on the wall, and strangely, it was still there. As I stood there examining it, I laughed, bemused. Then the light went out with a snap, and absolute darkness and terror took hold of me. I threw open the bedroom door and ran out screaming my sister's name. For a long time, I thought this was just my lot in life and never expecting anything different. I accepted ghosts would always hang around and bother me, and that was until I was a teenager at about 17. My life was better than it had ever been. Despite horror stories about foster care, I happened to be in a foster home that made me feel safe and happy and hopeful. The next twist of the story will make a lot of sensitives want to rip their head off, but in the interest in honest reporting, I'll tell you. My psychic ability towards everything else, beings, energies, shifted. The shift was from having a Hubble macroscope to having a shield membrane that sifted out ambient energy and focused only on what would personally enhance me. This was a tandem shift too. The more safe and happy I became, the less the macroscope I was, and the more my psychic ability turned down to just me and my interests. After a good many months of enjoying this change, I asked myself to shift back into macroscope sensitivity, and I did. Strange, but true. I'm not even sure I really understand what that person is experiencing, but it sounds profound. I just don't really understand macroscope. Maybe it's just being sensitive to everything, to being specifically sensitive to only some things. I don't know. I guess that person likes to pick up everything. No idea. All right, continuing on, ladies and gentlemen. We're continuing through the stories tonight. We're at 37 minutes. We got room for, I got 4 more pulled up. We'll see if we make it through all of them. This one's kind of long, but we'll see where we end up. This one's coming from Louisiana. Lady Death, this one's for you. I've had many supernatural encounters over the years, and this one was the most interesting. This story takes place in a little town called Transylvania, Louisiana, in early 1993. Transylvania is located on Highway US 65 South, about 44 miles northwest of Vicksburg, Mississippi, and there are cotton fields all around this region. My boyfriend and I were on our way to our new home in southern Louisiana, and we had the car heading down our we had the car loaded down, rather. Sorry, my eyes are a little fuzzy. And our mutt, Barky, my baby sister named him Barky, was sleeping in the back seat. It was early in the morning, about 2 or 3 a.m., and I was drifting off in and out of consciousness when I noticed signs along the road warning motorists that hitchhikers could be actually escaped inmates from nearby prison farms. I'd never heard of a prison farm before, so I became curious and started a conversation with my boyfriend on the subject. According to Wikipedia, a prison farm is a large correctional facility where hard labor convicts are put to economical use in a farm, in the wide sense of a productive unit, usually for manual labor, largely in open air, such as in agriculture, logging, quarrying, etc. Its historical equivalent on a very large scale was called a penal colony. At this point in the story, I was fully awake and engaged in a conversation that became even more interesting as we rolled into the sleepy town of Transylvania. We quickly noticed the huge water tower with the black bat and the word Transylvania, and we cracked a few jokes about the spooky water tower. But other than the usual name for a seemingly normal small town, the place was not eerie until we came upon something very incredible. It appeared there was a man, a very tall man, walking in the road ahead of us. It was a little foggy, so I think I might have been imagining it, but as we came closer, we noticed that this was no man. It appeared to be some kind of creature I had never seen. It looked like some mythical creature, part human and part buffalo. Its coloring was brown and patchy, and I could see right through it. Suddenly, as we came within 10 feet of it, the spook stepped directly in the path of our moving vehicle. We were going around 55 miles an hour, and my boyfriend slammed on the brakes. The dog went flying into the back seat and yelped. The beast slowly and nonchalantly turned his head sideways and looked at us intensely with despondent, hollow eyes, yet in an almost scolding look, and then it vanished. I got the definite feeling that this thing was very purposely walked out in front of us with every intention of making us wreck. About a month later, my boyfriend was traveling the same highway at night with a friend whom he had told not a thing about this creepy supernatural beast that we had seen in Transylvania. And when they came into Transylvania, what did they see? None other than the same haint that tried to make us crash a month earlier. I have not been able to find anything that would help explain what I saw when I was 19 until recently. It turns out, according to another ghost story website, that this place is very haunted. There has been the body of a woman with a goat's head sighted at the Transylvania post office many times. How interesting. Well, I guess if you're going to name your place Transylvania, you got to be expecting a little creepiness. Just saying. That's pretty epic, though. I don't know. What do you guys think about things like that? Now, I do believe that spirits can choose to look however the hell they want. Like, a spirit could look like your grandma. It could look like, the Incredible Hulk. It could look like whatever. There doesn't seem to be the same limitations, obviously, because they are energy. So, however they manifest that energy, they manifest it. And oftentimes, people that have died of maybe tragic circumstances will manifest their death state. And I think that's because they're trying to communicate that this is what happened to me. Like part of that earthbound spirit thing is needing to communicate, needing to find some closure. And so maybe if they're able to portray their death in some manner to someone else, that to them is just being able to tell their story, that it's not just something that was empty and meaningless, that maybe that being in the memory of another person is cathartic to them, and maybe then they can move on. I don't know. I don't know that necessarily happens often, though. They seem to just appear in their death state a lot. Many people report seeing ghosts with, burned half of their face and repeatedly over and over. But perhaps it's an attempt to start a dialogue. I don't know. But they just have to know how creepy that would be. I mean, to any normal person, seeing an apparition of something that's half demolished would be absolutely, tragic, would be horrifying. So I don't know. I think they should be a little more subtle if that's their game. All right. Next one is coming from Arkansas. 43. All right. Yeah, I think we're going to get through these. This one's kind of long, though, too. I did pick a lot of long stories tonight. Huh. All right. So, Arkansas, what's going on there? This is one of those stories passed down through the family. Excuse me. Told by my dad, and he passed away, so I can't ask him to clear any details, but I'll relate it as well as I can remember. Sorry, I had to cough. My father's family, a couple of generations back, live in Arkansas, and they were very poor, and I suppose they were what you would truly call hillbillies. This was told to me by my dad and happened to my great-grandparents. They lived in a little house surrounded by fields out in the country, and they were self-supporting and just starting out together. My dad's mom wasn't even thought of yet. My great-grandparents had just climbed into bed when there was a pounding at their front door. They worried because someone knocking at the door at that hour could only mean that something was really wrong. Remember, this would be around the 1890s, so early to bed, early to rise. No neighbors for quite a distance, and no phones. When they got to the door, great-grandfather called out and asked who it was. There was no reply, so after asking a time or two more, they waited to see what would happen. When some time went by and they didn't hear anything, they went back to bed. They were pretty isolated, so they didn't want to open the door to someone who could be dangerous. A hobo, I suppose you could say. They were wondering what was going on, irritated but cautious. And this happened a few more nights after dark when they were in bed, and I'm not clear on whether it was a few nights in a row or just sporadically. Nobody answered when they asked who it was, and great-grandpa was more than a little irritated, and he was worried. He placed his hunting gun near the door in case he had to use it, and that was the home security system in those days. That's still a home security system in these days. Though he didn't want to hurt anybody. Amen to that. After this had gone on for a while, they started worrying about other things that couldn't be seen. They weren't closed-minded to such things. After all, there are plenty of hillbilly superstitions, and they came up with the idea of sprinkling flour on the front steps to see what happened when they had knocks at the door. Before too long, I'm not sure if days went by or what, the knocking started in the evening after they were ready for bed. Great-grandpa grabbed his gun. He wasn't a fool, just prepared for anything, and yelled out and asked who was there multiple times. When there was no answer, he put the gun at the ready in case he had to shoot, and had Great-grandma fling the door wide open, and there was no one there. Great-grandpa called out, but there was nobody in sight. They looked down and saw footprints in the flour leading up to the door, and then just stopping at the door. Great-grandma said a little prayer. They were scared out of their wits, but as far as I heard, that was the end of things knocking at their door. My dad was a great storyteller, but I heard him recall the story many times, and it never varied. He always claimed it to be true, and I believe him. He's my dad, after all. And I don't think he embellished too awfully much, maybe not at all. My dad's sister, my aunt, also claims this story to be true. Now I'm curious, were they just regular footprints or what, though? It never really says. They looked down and saw footprints in the flour. Are they barefoot? Are they shoes? What are they seeing? And of course, there's no way to know now, but that's very curious. I mean, did it look like lizard prints, Bigfoot? What are we talking about here? Rougarou, maybe? I don't know. The next one is Oregon. This one's a little shorter, so we're doing good. Yeah, we'll get through there's one more after this, so we're in good shape. Oh, sapphire. Everybody loves sapphire, I think. Sapphire's a good stone. I'm not sure what's going on in the chat, but I said, look up and saw, I love sapphire. I think sapphires are beautiful. All right, so back to the stories. Sorry, I get a little sidetracked. This one's coming out of Oregon. My great-grandfather died of heart-related problems when I was only 13, and I was really devastated by his passing and didn't really know how to mourn. I just kept talking to him, and I still do. Kept him in my prayers and tried to move on. Sometime after he died, I dreamt of him, and he was wearing a blue suit. I've never seen him in a suit before, and I don't remember much about the dream, but I believe he was trying to convey that he was all right. A couple of years later, I dreamed of my papa again. And this time he had a warning. He said, "You need to go to the doctor. You were born with an illness, and it needs to be addressed," or something to that effect. When I awoke, I told my mom, and she said that it was just a dream and not to let it upset me. I dreamt of him later on, and he was at a picnic. Oh, a picnic. All right, they actually wrote it as two words, like pick and then nick, with my grandmother and other living people, and I was the only one who could see him. He was always deceased in my dreams, and in this dream, he asked me to check on my grandmother to make sure she wasn't too lonely, as she has yet to remarry. I still dream of him periodically, and I have since been diagnosed with a heart malady, but one that I'm told is not serious and can be treated with a lifetime of medication. I do visit my grandmother much more than I used to, and I know she appreciates it, as she really is very lonely. One more interesting tidbit, I went to visit my papa's grave, only I wasn't sure where it was. I remembered it was by a tree, but there were undoubtedly several trees at any given cemetery, and I was on my search for about 30 minutes when I decided to give up. I had a long drive home, and I needed to get a move on, and just as I was turning to leave, I tripped over a headstone and fell onto my hands and knees, and lo and behold, who was looking up at me? My grandfather, of course. His gravestone had his portrait etched into it, and there he was smiling back at me. as if I had just done something mischievous, which I believed he had. Anyway, I laid my flowers and left, chuckling and marveling over the experience all the way home. That's really cool. All right, there's one more tonight, and this one is coming out of California. And it's really, really short. Not really, really, but a few sentences or a few paragraphs. But let's see. I wanted to write about a few things that I've experienced, and they've all happened in my apartment. And usually around midnight. I've woken up about 12 o'clock multiple times, and I once woke up at around 12:21 3 times in a row. One of these times I woke up, and since I was sleeping in the living room couch, I had a clear view of the bathroom. I was trying to go back to sleep when the bathroom light turned on. I got paranoid and looked around to see if there was anyone there, but there wasn't. And I got freaked out good and forced myself to just go to sleep. Another time around 12, I got up to use the bathroom, and just as I was going back to bed, I heard a slam and turned around to see that a closet door in the hallway just going back into place. And finally, another time I woke up to see a black silhouette next to my bed move quickly away. After getting up, I quickly checked to see if it was my smaller brother who was sharing a room with me, but he was sound asleep. And I remember about the shape that it was completely impossible to see any details and that it was soundless. If any of you have comments, feel free to post them. Well, it sounds like you got a ghost. I'm just saying. Sounds like a ghost to me. All right. Well, that's our how the hell, what is squid art? The chat is sometimes so random. Or at least it seems like it, because I'm just got my head buried in stories, but then I look up and just see these weird comments. I love squid art. Don't know what squid art is, but sounds cool. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I enjoy doing it to you. Thank you, Julia. If you have stories of your very own and you'd like to submit them to the show to be read on the show, please do. You can send them to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'll be happy to share them with our listening audience. And again, we're still trying to move forward with the whole podcast thing. It was supposed to launch Monday, but we are dealing with someone using the name Paranormal Portal. And unfortunately, it's caused me to have to defend the name because I've been working for 3 years to build this name and this community. So I don't feel like renaming my show. So we're going to see what happens, but it's just delayed the launch of the podcast. So anyway, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful night. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. And find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys, have a great night. Take care. And again, Don will be here tomorrow. We'll do the Mayhem episode. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. But I hope you have a great night and sweet dreams.